Hey everyone, welcome to Late Night with Cap. This is Cap, and we're about ready to start another Caps conversation. And tonight I am joined by a special guest. You've probably seen him on the channel a few times. It is Jason Sandberg of Jupiter. Good to see you, man. How are you?
Good to see you. It's great to be back. And for those of us joining us, thank you for hanging out. But I am going to tell you, your viewing experience will be far superior if you indulge in your beverage of choice using the Late Night with Cap mug. I highly
Yeah,
recommend it. So get the complete experience by picking up the mug at the store.
yeah. That I was always shocked that you bought a mug. I think you and a few other people have, and I was told the mugs keep your coffee always warm.
hmm
So
hmm
that's good. That's good.
And you can do a mug shot.
You could. You look pretty cool with your shades, by the way. You look
Yeah, this is completely kayfabe. The story is my vision is so bad that if I wore my regular glasses and you saw how Coke bottle they were, you'd be like, this guy can't draw a comic book. He can't see anything. So hence, and then the other thing is, when I first started streaming, I did contacts, but I hardly ever wear them. So about 2 hours into like doing shows and stuff, my eyes start to die, and so
Mhm.
I found that the shades helps me kind of pass as a normal human being.
Well, okay. I mean that works. You also if you didn't tell anybody that, it looks like you're just playing Mr. Cool. So
I'll go with that. I'll go with that.
now tonight we are going to cover a fascinating story that involves something around time slips. That's right, time slips. Pretty much someone who's fallen through time for a little bit and then came back. And so we're going to go over that. It's kind of a interesting story and a fascinating one, and we'll definitely dive into that. And at the end of this video, we'll definitely maybe you can have a little bit moment to plug your comic there, Jason. So
Absolutely.
that should be fun. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started with that. All right, so time slips. But when I came to you to talk about this topic, did you know what a time slip was?
Oh yeah, I've seen all the movies. All the movies. Groundhog Day. There's that Palm Springs movie.
Hmm.
There's that one with the British guy with the red hair. There's been so many. It's like a subgenre.
Yeah, yeah. And basically, for all you who are watching, you don't know what it is. That's when someone suddenly feels like they've jumped through time or a different place. People from all over the world and throughout history have talked about these strange experiences. So yeah, like we said, we're going to talk about a story of a man who actually slipped and found himself into 1966. And what a decade, and what a year to go back to, right? A lot of
Right.
cool stuff happened.
And you'll notice with the topic of time slips, it's always people going backwards, starting with most famously with Mark Twain and A Tale of a Connecticut Yankees in King Arthur's Court. They always go backward in time.
Hmm.
Nobody seems to arrive early at work. It's always they go. It's always they go back. They always go back.
They always go back. Yeah,
Yeah.
they some even say, I've read a few things that um, it could just be from a few weeks ago. It's just almost like a deja vu type of moment. But this gentleman went back to 1966 for a few, maybe an hour or so. So he
hmm
wasn't too far. So this happened on Wednesday, June 11th, 1997, in Warwall, Northwest England. And that's kind of like on the east coast. I mean, the west coast of England. There, just in the middle. Um, Violent thunderstorms swept through the region, accompanied by a spectacular display of lightning over Hoylake, which is, I believe, a very popular town for golfing. Every time I looked up this town, everyone was golfing. So I'm not sure if golfing and lightning mix, but
Yeah, as they taught us in Caddyshack, do not golf during a lightning storm.
right.
I do want to pause and run something by you. They
Mhm.
they often say that deja vu is a glitch in the matrix, right?
Right.
What if a time slip is the matrix getting a software update?
Maybe it could be. It could be.
Checks out.
I strongly believe we had one of those in 2020. Forked lightning danced sideways across the clouds, accompanied by a cracking and fizzling sound, painted an eerie scene in the sky amidst the chaos. A 67-year-old widower named Jimmy vanished from his home. Last seen walking near pomade, Jimmy, who was undergoing treatment for a critical depression at the time, uh, prompted his sons Roger and Martin to embark on a frantic search, excuse me, to find him, driving through the storm, lighting streets, and in hopes of locating their father. So we all have elder. I mean, I'm at the age where my parents are around 60 something,
Hmm.
and I really don't want them venturing off.
No,
So I'm sure this was kind of a frightening scene, a frightening moment for the two sons, especially if he was already kind of having um, some some mental issues there.
it's
So
it's a very real issue. It's a very common issue. I tell you, every freaking time I go to Florida, I'm going down the freeway and there's this silver alert.
mhm, yeah, yeah.
And one might say that if England was a better developed country, they would have had silver alerts on the side of the road.
Well, this is 1997, so I don't know if they had silver alerts, but I do know what those are. I do see them quite a few times in Texas as well. So his sons Roger and Martin searched for their missing father Jimmy against the backdrop of this tremendous storm. I believe it was probably one of the worst at the time. Roger entertained the possibility that maybe Jimmy might have embarked on a pub crawl. Apparently, they do have these.
Mhm.
There's a picture there of quite a few of them. That would be fun to do. And
Absolutely.
a notion fueled by hope. However, Martin always realized uh, he feared a dark fate, envisioning that his father just wanted to live as a vagrant and detached from society. So he was one of those people that just kind of wanted to not be included in everyone anyway. So his one of
Mhm.
his sons, Martin, was just maybe that's what he did, and he would be okay with that.
So, they use the term vagrant, and I don't know if that's a British thing, but in America, what I was told growing up is that there's homeless and then there's hobos. So, homeless is I guess you don't have a house, and a hobo is you don't want a house because it's like a hassle, right?
Hmm.
So maybe because there's not railroad tracks in England or whatever, there's no hobos, right? So they call them vagrants,
I'm, I'm pretty sure there's railroad tracks, and they always have different words for things. Biscuit is not really a
especially in
biscuit
other
over here.
countries. Yep.
Like a biscuit's a cookie or something, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, they don't really they have different names for even their money is different. It's called different. So maybe it's the same thing as that. But that pub crawl would be fun if that's what he was doing.
Yeah, definitely. I'd enjoy going through there, checking those off the old list.
Yeah, that'd
Um,
be cool.
do you think it's worth noting that people who aren't hunted down by loan sharks don't have time slips?
It could be. We could think about that one. Yes.
People who aren't wanted for alimony don't have time slips.
That's true. I guess that's true. They don't come. They go back in time, but they don't come back.
Yes.
Despite their efforts, Jimmy remained elusive the following day, so about 24 hours, amidst the chaos caused by flooded and overwhelmed emergency services. So I guess this was a very huge storm for them because it was just causing havoc all across the town.
Yeah.
Roger caught sight of his father strolling down the king's cab, and that's like a kind of like a row of shops, and then like there's a beach on the other side.
Mhm.
A genuine smile adoring his face, a rare sight. Overwhelmed with grief, Roger pulled over, called out to his father, and approached him, greeted by Jimmy's radiant smile, a moment of joy and a mist in the cast. So he was just happy to be in the rain, happy to around all this chaos. He was probably the most happiest person in the world, and I'm sure his since earlier we talked about he was going through depression. I'm sure his son's never
Mhm.
seen him this happy before.
Mhm.
Um, so, what would if you were searching for your father like this,
Mhm.
and you didn't know that he did something like a time slip?
Mhm.
Do you think maybe what would you think he would be happy about around all this?
I would say that, I've seen, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, so I know that electroshock therapy can help people, and most likely he got a bolt of lightning, very, very frightening, and it cured him of his depression.
Oh, that could be, yeah. And then sometimes rain just makes people happy sometimes.
Yeah. There is that, when it starts raining, there's that, "Oh, I gotta get wet," and then, you get drenched, and then you embrace it, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I am now in tune with the genetic memories of all my ancestors who didn't have umbrellas," and I'm like, this is natural. It's like I'm in nature, and you give up the pretense of, clean underwear, and dry underwear, and you're like, and then you're like it's like Braveheart or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll
So
do it.
he so we're gonna quote this is quoted from the storyteller Jimmy
Hmm.
and the sons. Dad, where the hell have you been? Me and Martin have been looking for you everywhere, said Roger, embracing his father, who came back with a strange and shocking answer. I think I died and I went to heaven, lad. That would be a if you're trying to find your missing missing anybody, and they said and that's where they went. That'd
Hmm.
be kind of shocking, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Roger almost pushed him away in surprise and said, "What?" Jimmy wasn't very coherent, and he kept rambling on about whole lake sands, ice creams, and how he had gone back in the past. Uh, Get in the car, Dad, Roger said, gently guiding his grinning, buoyant father into the vehicle. Can you imagine how happy this dude was? Like the way this is described, it was just.
Yeah. I would have been like, Dad, I'm so happy too, because I know you took $100 and invested it wisely in 1966, and we're gonna go call your new broker and we're gonna cash out, Dad. This is gonna be fantastic. I'm
Well,
excited, Dad. I'm so happy.
I don't think at this time they knew that he went back. They just knew he went back. He did something interesting in the past.
Oh yeah.
But it'd be so weird to see that. Like usually when you find someone missing, they're either yes, they are excited that you found them, but it sounds like this guy was more than that. Um and so returning home, Martin's frustration boiled over as he scolded his father for venturing out without leaving a note.
Okay, pause. Who leaves a note? It's 1997. Who leaves a note?
I mean, do you want your kids to leave a note if they leave?
Oh, everybody texts and stuff like that.
In 97?
Oh yeah, you got me. All right. You got me. But even in 97, I don't remember anybody leaving a note. Nobody left a note.
There's
All
pagers.
my roommates, I would make these little notepads. I put them by the phone and say, if someone calls me, write down a note. And they're like, I'm not your secretary. I'm like, come on,
Okay.
come on.
Okay. I mean, I used to leave notes. I
Okay.
sometimes I still leave notes, but not often.
You lived in a proper country then.
I leave notes if like someone's like with if my wife is napping. So I'll
Hmm.
leave
Oh
so I
yeah,
don't wake her up. There we
good man.
go. Without leaving a note, like I said there, the sentiment Roger attempted to quell are urging his brother to give their dad a chance to explain. So like Martin was super upset, but Roger was like, "Come on, let's see what's going on." And what followed was this bizarre tale where Jimmy went into the past. So Jimmy had slipped out of his Holic residence at 11 p.m. This was at night, finding himself ensnared with relentless downpour. So he was in the middle of this giant storm. As he trudged through the storm, he became captivated by a memorizing display of lightning streaking through the darkened sky. That I've been in a sky like that. That's pretty terrifying, actually. Feeling almost entranced by its spectacle, suddenly he encountered a brilliant bright light overhead. Now, do you think he got struck by lightning?
So this was a great story to look at because I took a I didn't take a time slip, but I took a journey with this story, and I'll
Mm,
kind of walk you through my journey as we go through this guy's journey. My take at this point was the guy got hit by lightning, and
yeah.
he went into just he had like the endorphin rush, and maybe the brain started to do self-preservation and shut down, and it released the endorphins. And just as people who were near death experience, um, and that's what I was thinking. I'm thinking he just went to his happy place.
Yeah, he said he mistakenly thought he died. And then, however, um, as the light pierced through, Jimmy slowly realized it was the blazing sun,
Mm,
not lightning, casting a fierce glow amidst the sky, now painted in baby blue. So it was like he was in the daytime there, a surreal contrast to the tempest he had just traversed through. So the storm went away, and this it was all blue skies and sun. As he looked up, he spotted a red diamond shaped kite hovering in the sky.
hey, you're from Texas, right?
Not originally, yes, but I do live there now.
So I just on the news today, I think it was Representative Sheila Jackson Lee was talking to her constituents, and she explained that the sun is real hot,
It is real hot.
real hot.
Yeah, stay
Yeah.
away from the sun. It is. It's really hot. Yeah, and you can all. Speaking of time slips, if you fly around it backwards, you will go also back in time.
No, no, hold on, hold on. I thought Superman made the Earth
Now,
spin backward.
Superman flew backwards around the world, but Captain Kirk one upped him and went backwards around the sun.
I may have to rewatch that.
Yeah, I think that's the one with the whales.
Ah, okay.
All my Star Trek friends and fans will tell me. When he lowered his gaze, he was astonished to see Holyoke Sands busting with people dressed in the colorful attire of decades past, reminiscent of the late 1950s or early 1960s. Initially overwhelmed with disbelief, he entertained the idea of stumbling upon heaven, where life mirrored the carefree days of his youth. Rushing down to the sands, he felt the sun's warmth drying his clothes, and his smile returned, banishing the depression that he had plagued him. However, he soon realized he had somehow traveled back to time to 1966, confirmed by conversations with puzzled bystanders. So this dude just shows up. They're like, "Where'd you come from?" And he's actually having conversations with people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Where'd you come from?" Do you think he asked what year it was?
They looked at his T-shirt and they said who are Beavis and Butthead?
Right.
What is this band? What is it with your T-shirt, Mister?
Or
And
maybe it's
then
like Back to the Future, and they're like, "Hey, what boat did you fall off of with your life jacket?"
and then they said why do you have a bottle of water and why is it plastic?
Yeah.
And then they said what's with these what's with these Air Jordans you're wearing?
I don't know if Jimmy was wearing Air Jordans, but yeah, maybe. What was that?
1997.
In Back to the Future 3, it was Nikes. What are those Nikes?
What if he what if what if,
We lost them.
hold on.
Oh, there we go.
5 minutes later.
We'll leave this in the
Whoa,
recording.
what if
5 minutes later.
Oh,
Hold on.
You're good.
What if he was wearing Joey Buttafuoco Zupas?
What if he was wearing Joey Buttafuoco Zupas? Is what he said.
What if he was wearing Zupas? It was 1997. Trends in England are always a couple years behind American trends. What if he was dressed like Joey Buttafuoco and he had Zubas on and him being on that beach?
Changed
Somebody saw the Zubas.
and changed fashion forever.
And that's where it started. Or some youngster who in the late 80s would be a fashion designer recollected that man on the beach with the leopard skin sweatpants.
Those who share their experiences of time slips, there's more other people out there with more often fall into two distinct groups. So those gripped by fear of being stranded in another era, that would be kind of terrifying. And those who are drawn to the idea of living in the past they perceived as better. Now, if you were going to go back in time, which time period would you pick?
I would go back to 1992.
Okay. That's real specific.
It's real specific. No, I would probably go back to the 70s to walk around when because you want I've got fond recollections of the world when I was really young. So I would like to travel back there and see things through my current eyes and marvel at things as they were and so forth. Now, if you want to go back in time and visit someplace, by and large, e- everything, most of what we have, we had like in the 80s. It was just bigger and clunkier and more plasticky, right? So when you talk about like the pre-digital age,
Yeah.
the 1970s is a great time because it was like the best of the 50s and 60s, minus Jimmy Carter and stagflation. It was all that good. It was all that good stuff, but the digital overlay hadn't come into place yet. So I remember those times,
We were
and
still kind of I don't know about the UK, but over here in the US, we were still kind of a slow paced society. I
yeah,
think once digital came into play, we became very fast.
yeah,
Um, so I agree. I wouldn't mind hanging out in between the 50s and the 70s. I think
yeah.
that would be fun.
Because
Um,
I will say, if I go back any earlier in time, I'm going to get myself in trouble.
well, it'd be easier to not get caught.
I'm gonna I'm gonna shoot my mouth off, and I'm gonna be on a list. And I'm gonna be in trouble, and they're gonna say
Yeah,
this guy
probably.
is clearly a time slipper.
Now, on the
But
other side of
it would be cool to go meet like Jack Kirby and people
so
like that back in the.
on the other side of that, what era would you not want to be stranded in?
Oh God, I
Because remember,
think,
you don't. I don't think you get a pick.
yeah, I think anything before 1900
Okay.
would be cool at first, but then it would suck. Uh, by 1900, you're beginning to get mass sanitation. You're beginning to get plumbing everywhere. It's not perfect, but you could rough it. Sorry, it's easier to rough it by like 1900. The further you go into the obviously you don't want to be anywhere like from the 1933 to 1945. There's certain places you do not want to be,
Hmm.
but by and large, you can make a go of it. If you go back earlier than that, it's like, oh, this is so cool, wagon trains and like wagon trains, and then you're like, wait a minute, wagon trains.
Yeah.
The novelty wears stuff up pretty quickly. It
I
would be
think.
cool to go talk to like Thomas Jefferson and the founding fathers and be like, no, you got it mostly right, but you're really gonna have to be really clear about this. Like
Yeah,
really clear
you
about
have to
this.
like we have to adjust some things. Now, yeah, I think it would be. I think if I wanted, I think I would be okay with any of those decades you mentioned. I just don't. I don't think I want to be stuck in the medieval times
No, not at all. Not at all.
because you can literally forget that you have a cell phone in your pocket, and the next day you're burned to the stake.
Mhm. Mhm.
At least
Absolutely.
you could kind of explain it in other decades. So Jimmy belonged in the latter. He was so excited that he went back to 1966, despite having two sons who knew he would miss dearly. The allure of Holyoke in 1966 on a scorching summer's day with familiar faces and his youth like old Miss Prescott from the nearby Market Street felt like paradise to him. So this kind of goes across line with what you said about the 70s. As he soaked in the atmosphere, the sounds of the Beatles um, from the nearby transistor radio kind of went through the sound waves. Jimmy
Yep.
felt overwhelmed with emotion and was
Yep.
too good. It was just too good to be true.
Yep. It
And
it
yeah,
was it was too good to be true. This was the record scratch moment for me because I know my pop culture, and I know that in the summer of 1966, John Lennon made that famous comment that we're more popular than Jesus, and everybody turned on the Beatles. They stopped playing it on the radio. They started burning the records. They canceled them on social
mm,
media. This was when the Beatles went too far, and so I'm like, there's something wrong with this guy's story. It's not checking out. It's not adding up. The
okay.
Beatles would not have been on the radio in the
Okay,
summer of
so
1966.
1966, the Beatles would not be on the radio.
No, no,
Okay.
they were persona non grata. We know what he meant in terms of where people's attention is, but people took that to mean that they were above above Jesus and so forth. And
Hmm.
they were pulling the music from the radio. They were smashing, and there's many famous interviews of TV news people talking to hipsters in England, and they're like, "We're not going to go for that no more," and just saying no. And but it was brilliant because just as a side note, this sometimes will work. all those people ended up rebuying the albums they burned, which further boosted the Beatles' sales. But
Okay.
regardless, for purposes of our story, this pokes a major-sized hole in this guy's story.
Okay. So okay, even if it was in May of 1966.
Yeah, because well, yeah, I guess you got me there.
No, okay. No, that's a good explanation of where to poke holes. That I like that. That's good. Now, this one is also a part where where people when how do they come out of the time slip? So we're getting into that. A child accidentally kicked a beach ball in his direction, snapping him back to the present moment. So he kind of got shocked a little bit. As a child apologized, Jimmy chuckled, aware that his credit card couldn't buy him a treat. Despite this, he lingered on the beach, dreading the return 1997. So he just kept thinking, when am I going to go back? Right. Because, I guess he got hit by the beach ball and he kind of was like, whoa, I'm not in the right place. And then strolling through the Market Street, memories flooded back as he visited familiar spots. Suddenly, a peak, I think it's a paraffin van, passed by, and then everything vanished like that.
Oh boy.
So I've seen this in movies where they do time travel stuff like this, where something happens, you get bumped in the head, or you fall, or
Mhm.
you go to sleep.
There's that Christopher Reeves Gene Seymour movie where he goes back in time by meditating and he accidentally pulls a modern penny out of his pocket and he sees the date on the penny and he shooms back
Mhm.
to current day. That's a great movie. I forget the name of it.
Yeah, and then we over there after the weekend where we do movie reviews, we reviewed a mini series where a guy goes back in time to try to save John F. Kennedy in
Oh yeah.
1963,
Yep.
and he he was he would jump through a little hole, a
Hmm.
rip in time,
Hmm.
but he could always decide when he would go back. But every now and then he would have a flashback of I'm not supposed to be here, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Or something would kind of tap his shoulder, like, hey, you're in the wrong time period. And in that story, it was a lot of near death things, like either a car accident or
Yep.
something real crazy would happen to remind him you should go back. So yeah, so that's what happened. Jamie grappled with the idea that his journey to 1966 had perhaps been a reminder of his true self, courtesy of a higher power. So maybe this was just the man above kind of letting him know, hey, look, you had a good life, man. Be happy. This is all you don't need to. You also have a good life in 1997 with your son. So don't you know think of all that. Well, Jimmy's son insisted upon him visiting his quack, because after hearing about his time trip, they really did not know. They really did know fear for his mental health. So they were now fearing that he was just really lost his mind. And but when Jimmy calmly discussed his experience with his doctor, the GP, the general physician, seemed fascinated and said he believed Jimmy had not hallucinated the
Hmm.
stroll in the past, but how somehow through some phenomenon awaiting to be discovered by science, which was he visited 1960. So the doctor believed him,
Hmm.
like something happened.
Wow.
Um, and Jimmy even said, "I still have the trainers, and they with sand in them."
Hmm.
So that would be weird, right? If you did a
Yeah.
time slip and you pull out of your pocket and you've got a something from the past, that would be kind of neat. And he insists the sands were 1966. I'd be curious if they tested that.
I think if they carbon date the sand, it's not going to be able to differentiate between 66 and 97. With I don't the who knows, but
Maybe.
I think it's too close. I don't think they'll be able to say it's 1966 sand.
So he's
Although they could potentially look at it for pollutants
yeah.
and they could say, hey, there's iridium in here. So there
Hmm.
was, we can say that how much iridium was in the atmosphere in
Or there's
66.
suntan lotion.
Yes.
No
Good point.
suntan
There could be
lotion.
there's fewer microplastics in the
Yeah. So he saved it.
uh-huh.
I don't know. He saved a bit of sand. And
Yep.
he treasured that sand, and that way he can have a story to tell. But he doesn't care what they say or think. If the doctor believe it or not, he truly believed that he went back in time. So time slips are types of minor slips in space time, and they are caused by some say they're caused by gravity waves. And some scientists have been actually steadily learning more about the way that these waves can mess with time and space. So people are actually today are looking into um, if they can actually do this. They have also discovered that despite what people say about nothing being able to move faster than light, space-time itself can expand faster than light. This doesn't violate rules of relativity, as nothing is physically moving through space, but rather space itself is stretching. And some physicists think that these little discoveries will lead us to one day a machine so sophisticated and as powerful as the. Now they ran this thing during the solar eclipse, the Large Hadron Collider.
Mhm.
Do you know what this is?
Yep, is that at CERN?
Yeah, which will allow us to first televise the past and then allow us to visit maybe in person. So they're thinking this machine or a machine like this that does things with atoms and time could maybe potentially show us a glimpse of the time period. What do you think? They tried to run this thing during the eclipse. I'm not sure what happened,
Yeah,
but they did run it.
See, I cut out any of the background solar radiation.
Yeah. So they did a lot of tests during the solar eclipse. They actually, I think a lot of scientists did a lot of things to see how the world just reacted around it.
Well,
So,
famously, it was during an eclipse that they validated Einstein's theory of relativity, because they proved that that the light bent around gravity. Um, I don't fully I understand quarks, and I understand how quarks, which way they're spinning makes the different kinds of neutrons, protons, and electrons and all. I understand that. the the Hadron Collider, I don't fully understand it, but I do know that since they turned it on, things have not been right.
the glitches have happened more.
It's been issues. Things have sucked. I mean, everything sucks since they turned the thing on. So I think they did something when they turned it on. In
Perhaps.
retrospect, with the fact that the guy went back to 1966, I do recall that that the United States passed in 1966. I think it was the summer of 1966. Passed the Uniform Time Act, which set a standard for daylight savings time. So maybe that happening is what pulled him to 1966, because it
Maybe.
caused like an outward ripple or something like that.
Maybe. Well, Arizona doesn't do that. So
Yeah.
But I also heard they're going to not do that anymore. The time,
Okay.
the daylight savings. So who knows? Maybe we'll all go back to some time. Now, okay.
So do
you believe
Mhm.
that this man either one had a dream because he got struck by lightning,
Mhm.
or two, do you actually think he got struck by lightning and actually traveled through time?
I think that he was he either hit by lightning or hallucinated and had a wonderful psychedelic experience. But I don't think that the lightning could create enough energy to send him back in time. And had there been some sort of like time slip, it would have taken him and like some of the ground beneath him. And then if it sent it back in time, so like the Earth is moving around the sun, and then but the sun is actually also moving through space. So if he went back in time, he would have been like in space where Earth was.
Oh, you think
60.
so?
Yeah.
You
Yep.
think that's how it works? Okay.
Yep. That's
Now-
I'm pretty sure because I'm right now you and I are time traveling. We're moving forward in time.
We
right?
are.
We are.
Mhm.
And but physically we're physically physically sticking to where we are on the Earth, right?
Mhm.
So if and in a couple of days, as the Earth spins and the sun moves through the cosmos, outward from like the Big Bang or whatever, we're gonna be where the Earth is. If he goes back,
You think
I
he's
guess
just going to be
maybe he would go back. He would go back to where the Earth was, and there's nothing there. Like we left that space behind.
This could be a 2-hour show.
Maybe this hold on a second. Maybe this explains disappearances. Maybe
what?
all the kids, maybe all the last kids in the milk cartons just time slipped and they're floating in space.
It's interesting you say that. There are some people that say when people go missing, this is what happens, and they
Horrifying.
do get stuck.
Horrifying.
Now, I did a video a long time ago about the missing people, like the 411 missing people,
Mhm.
and people would do that. People would vanish, like in New Jersey,
Mm.
and somehow end up 3 months later in Oregon and have no idea how they got there. Or someone would never then one would be found either. I'm happy that he came back. I'm glad he had a good time. Whatever happened to him, it seemed to change his life. And it seems like he was already kind of before all of this. He was a pretty depressed man, and people were worried if he did wander off that he would harm himself.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it at least whatever happened to him, I'm glad at least fixed him. So.
And
There's
isn't
that.
it kind of funny that a lot of us watching right now would like to go back to 1997?
Well, I was in ninth grade, so I don't know.
Okay, all right. But you could go back and tell the younger you, buy Apple stock.
I would tell the younger one, don't ever go to high school. Stay where you are. Well, I think time slips could be possible. I do believe that there are some weird things out there that time travel could happen. Maybe one day it will, but I hope it's one of the time travel things where we get to watch the past,
Yeah.
where we don't meddle with the past. I think meddling, well, you see the movies, right? Things
Yeah.
get weird.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If we can observe the past just for like a few minutes, maybe we could understand like, hey, look, this is why we tell you don't repeat history, because it can lead to the same things. You don't want to do this continued cycle of things. So maybe we can teach our children in the future with time travel by saying, look, this is why we tell you not to do these things.
Yep.
Because some people don't believe history books because they're written by the winners.
We're gonna pull up this monitor and we're gonna show you 2020. This is civics class in the year 2050. We're gonna use the time tunnel to look at 2020.
All these people went nuts.
Look at all these mistakes. Don't do this. Don't do this.
Don't do any of this. But
we're not going to read the Scarlet. We're not going to read the Scarlet Letter. We're not going to read the Diary of Anne Frank. We're not going to read Animal Farm. We're not going to read 1984. We're going to show you 2020.
Yeah.
No Salem witch trials. We're not going to talk about that. We're just going to show you 2020.
Yep. Now, speaking of time, we're going to wrap up here. And Jason, I'm going to give you a few minutes to kind of cover the future of Jupiter, your comic book, and what you got going on at the moment.
So this is Jupiter issue 1. It is in demand on Indiegogo and Fund My Comic. It is 40 pages full color for $13. Shipping is only $5 for US backers. And it has a flip cover on the back.
What if I wanted to send it to 1966?
I'll add a tier. I'll add a tier and I'll make a certificate of authenticity. I'll make a certificate of authenticity that I shipped it back to 1966.
Can you imagine someone knocked on your door like next year and they're like, "Look, man, I've had this book since like 1966. Can I get your autograph?"
Dude. That's exactly. I mean, I would like do a time capsule. There's so many things I would do. To prove like and it'd be the ultimate like if Penn and Teller could travel back in time, they would do so many like pranks. It'd just be amazing. But anyway, this is Jupiter. It is in demand. I am working on issue 2. Issue 2, I'm doing the I'm doing the markups right now. I did the first pass of the inks. I do the markups and do a second pass of the inks the next like week or two to start coloring it. Jupiter issue 2, stay tuned for that. That'll be coming out later this year. I'll launch the campaign. It is going to have a celebrity collaboration. I'm not going to say who the celebrity is, but a celebrity is collaborating with me on a 2-page short story. Wow. It is going to have a continuation of this main story. It's going to have this issue of Jupiter has a pie ad, because one of my rules of thumb is that if you pick up a comic book and it has a pie ad, 8 times out of 10 it's a great comic book. And that just holds up. That's the pie rule. So I make
That's
sure
awesome.
I put a pie ad in every issue of Jupiter. The pie ad in issue 2, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna
All
be
right.
crazy. It's gonna
I'm
be crazy.
excited. I think it's great. I think it's a great book. Everyone, you should check it out. I'll go ahead and put your information in description. I'll also put the article that we kind of covered in the story in the
Yeah.
description as well. And now one other thing, you have a Cap lunchbox there, and this is your brand new one.
Yes, I
And
do. I think this is the eighth in my collection. I like comic books. I don't really collect. I read. I love comic books. I make them. I buy them to read them. The only thing that I collect is these Captain America metal lunch boxes. That's the only thing. I don't have a stamp collection. I have a coin collection. My coin collection is just like in my pocket. So it's a very niche thing to collect. However, I can put stuff in them for storage, right? So I keep my eyes peeled for any Captain America lunch boxes. Hence,
it's a good idea.
you and I have an affinity for Cap, right?
But
what's
you know what?
beautiful-
Maybe I can find someone that can make a late night with Cap.
That would be awesome.
Lunchbox.
That'd be awesome. The beauty of this Cap lunchbox. Okay, you've got some. I forgot the other's name, but this is a British guy. I forgot his name, but anyway, this one has a Rob Liefeld Captain America on the lunchbox.
Okay.
Now buckle in. Now of all the most famous Captain America drawings by Rob Liefeld, I know what's in your mind, right? You can see it right now. They didn't use that one, but they did this one.
Okay.
They didn't.
I get it.
They didn't do the man boob one, but
no, the profile.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it was a time in my life where I was just working out too much.
I think this is a Jim. I think that's Brian Hitch.
Yeah, those are great. That's cool.
Yeah,
I
and
like
Chris
that.
Somney. So
Yeah.
good stuff. So that's
Nice
my. I collect those. They're great.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed our little story about time slips. If you have a comment, what you believe about what time slips, or if you believe or not, or if you maybe have a story and you want to share that with me, that would be fantastic. And again, if you're new here, please subscribe if you stayed long enough, and hit that like button and share out with your friends. And I will see you next time on the Late Night with Cap channel. And be sure to check out for the next video. Jason, thanks again, man. I'll see you later.
But if you go.